In the mid-19th century, the ancient city of Djenné, Mali, thrived under the scorching sun. Its grand mosque stood as a testament to faith, while the bustling marketplaces echoed with the din of commerce and lively conversations. Among the city's inhabitants was Lamine, a young and ambitious trader known for his adventurous spirit. Lamine returned to Djenné with his caravan, laden with goods from distant lands. Among the textiles and spices, he brought back a curious artifact, a small, intricately carved amulet he found abandoned in the desert. Its origins were a mystery, its age indeterminable. His sister Neneba greeted him with joy, her eyes quickly drawn to the amulet. Unlike Lamine, Neneba had always been fascinated by the supernatural. She sensed an uneasy aura surrounding the artifact. "Brother, where did you find this?" she asked, a hint of worry in her voice. "In the desert, beyond the dunes where no man dares to tread," Lamine boasted, dismissing her concerns with a wave of his hand. That night, as the city of Djenné slept, a subtle change began to unfold. The shadows cast by the moonlight grew longer and twisted against the natural flow of light. A chill wind whispered through the streets, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. The next day, Neneba voiced her fears to Lamine, urging him to rid himself of the amulet. "There is an energy about it that feels wrong," she said. Lamine, ever the skeptic, laughed off her warnings. Seeking wisdom, Neneba visited old Mustafa, a sage renowned for his knowledge of ancient lore. With a single glance at the amulet, his usual warm demeanor turned grave. "This is no ordinary artifact," he murmured. "It is bound to something powerful, something forgotten." As days passed, the unseen threat began to manifest. Shadows in Djenné moved with a mind of their own, slinking through the marketplaces and along the walls of the mosque. The air grew thick, and an inexplicable gloom settled over the city. Crops that were once bountiful began to wither, and a strange illness spread among the livestock. The once vibrant chatter of the marketplace was replaced by hushed tones of concern and fear. Imam Soleiman, sensing the growing unease among his flock, called for a citywide prayer. "We must seek guidance and protection," he proclaimed to the assembled crowd at the mosque. But the shadows continued to grow, creeping into the very hearts of Djenné's people. Lamine, witnessing the changes firsthand, began to question his disbelief. Neneba, more determined than ever, knew that the answer lay with the artifact and the ancient forces it had awakened. The city of Djenné stood at the edge of a precipice, its fate intertwined with the actions of a young trader and the unseen threat that lurked in the shifting shadows. As the moon cast a silver glow over Djenné, the artifact's curse began to weave its dark tapestry through the city's heart. Lamine, once a skeptic, could no longer ignore the creeping dread that followed the amulet's arrival. The vibrant life of Djenné seemed to dim, shadows clinging a little too tightly to the corners of rooms, whispers of unease fluttering through the marketplace. Neneba's sleep was plagued by vivid nightmares, visions of deserts stained with blood and ancient temples dedicated to forgotten deities. Each morning she awoke, her resolve strengthened, knowing the key to the city's plight lay within the cryptic history of Lamine's desert-found relic. A mysterious wanderer arrived in Djenné, his presence as sudden as a desert storm. Cloaked in robes that seemed to absorb the light, he sought out Lamine and Neneba. "The artifact," he whispered, his voice a blend of fear and reverence. "It belongs to Anansi, the deity of shadows and secrets. Its awakening spells doom for all." The city, once a beacon of life amidst the desert, now faced inexplicable phenomena. Crops withered overnight as if scorched by an unseen sun, and livestock fell ill, their cries of distress echoing through the silent streets. The shadows grew bolder, stretching towards the citizens with almost tangible desire. In their desperation, some villagers turned to dark rituals, their chants echoing into the night. But the curse only deepened, fed by the fear and chaos that now gripped Djenné. Tragedy struck when a beloved elder was found lifeless, her body surrounded by a halo of shadows that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. The city mourned, and Lamine felt the weight of guilt press upon him. He had brought this curse upon Djenné. Neneba, her spirit touched by the unseen world, began to experience visions. She saw the creation of the amulet, forged in blood under a blood-red moon, and Anansi's laughter filled her ears, a sound as cold as the desert night. As the curse's influence grew, the very fabric of Djenné seemed to warp. Buildings aged centuries in mere days, and the once clear waters of the Niger turned murky and dark. The shadows, now almost corporeal, whispered secrets in languages long forgotten. The chapter culminates in a chilling revelation. The amulet previously guarded by Lamine vanished from its resting place. In its stead, a shadow stood, its form shifting and writhing in the moonlight. Neneba, drawn to the spot by a force she couldn't resist, found herself face to face with the manifestation of the curse. "The awakening has begun," the shadow hissed, its voice a promise of darkness to come. "The deity's will shall be done." Neneba, her heart racing with fear and determination, knew the battle for Djenné's soul was far from over. The curse had awakened, and with it, the true test of their spirit and resolve. As dawn broke over Djenné, a veil of unease settled upon its streets, a harbinger of the chaos to come. The disappearance of the artifact had cast a long shadow over the city, one that seemed to seep into the very stones of the buildings and the hearts of its people. Neneba, plagued by visions that left her trembling, sought solace in the wisdom of old Mustafa. Yet even the sage seemed unsettled, his usual composure frayed at the edges. "The descent has begun," he whispered, a note of resignation in his voice. Anansi weaves his web, drawing all of Djenné into his dark embrace. Lamine, tormented by guilt over his role in awakening the curse, encountered a figure shrouded in mystery, a rival trader named Farid, who claimed knowledge of the artifact's true power. "Anansi seeks a gateway," Farid revealed, his eyes glinting with undisclosed motives. "The artifact was but a key, and now the lock has been turned." The city itself began to warp under the curse's influence. Shadows danced in broad daylight, mocking the sun's warmth. The Niger's waters turned thick and sluggish, reflecting a sky that seemed to boil with dark clouds. Whispers filled the air, sowing distrust among neighbors, friends, and families. In a desperate bid to counteract the growing darkness, Imam Soleiman called for unity, urging the city to stand together against the unseen threat. But his words fell on ears deafened by fear. A group of villagers, their minds twisted by the curse, turned to a forbidden ritual, hoping to appease Anansi's wrath. Instead, their actions only deepened the darkness, a monstrous shadow rising from the ritual's site, its form ever-changing, ever-threatening. Neneba, drawn by a force she could neither deny nor understand, found herself face to face with the shadow. It spoke in riddles, offering her power in exchange for her allegiance to Anansi. "Reject him, and Djenné will drown in eternal night," it hissed, its form looming over her like a specter of doom. As the city teetered on the brink of despair, a revelation shook its foundation. The Wanderer, the mysterious figure who had warned them, was none other than a former guardian of the artifact, cursed to wander the earth for his failure to contain its power. His presence in Djenné was no coincidence. It was a final attempt to rectify his past mistakes. The chapter reaches its climax as the city descends into chaos. The ritual performed by the villagers unleashes a horrifying transformation in Jibril, the city guard, who becomes a vessel for Anansi's malice, his form twisted into a grotesque parody of human and shadow. As Djenné succumbs to the curse, with its people divided and its streets filled with fear, Neneba and Lamine realize the true extent of the threat they face. The artifact's curse was not just a harbinger of darkness, but a test of their very humanity. The descent into chaos was complete, but within the heart of despair, a flicker of hope remained. Neneba and Lamine, united in their determination to save Djenné, prepared to face the darkness, armed with the knowledge of the artifact's past, and the resolve to protect their home, whatever the cost. The battle for Djenné's soul was far from over, and the night was darkest just before the dawn. Under the relentless sun, the trio set out from Djenné, each step taking them deeper into the desert's heart, where civilization's echoes faded into the vast, silent expanse. Lamine, Neneba, and Farid, bound by a shared mission, ventured into the unknown, driven by the desperate hope of unraveling the curse that ensnared their city. As days blended into nights, the desert tested their resolve. Sandstorms erased their tracks, mirages taunted their thirst, and the chilling night cold seeped into their bones. Yet amidst these trials, Ancient ruins emerged on the horizon, monoliths standing defiant against time's erosion. The ruins whispered of a forgotten epoch, their walls etched with hieroglyphs that spoke of Anansi, the deity betrayed by those he trusted most. The trio deciphered the inscriptions, piecing together a tale of power, betrayal, and a curse born from vengeance. Anansi's spirit, it seemed, sought retribution through the artifact, a conduit for his wrath to reach beyond the veil. Guarding these secrets were spectral guardians, apparitions of Anansi's erstwhile followers bound to protect the deity's legacy. The encounters with these spirits tested the trio not with swords, but with truths, revealing hidden fears and desires. Farid's knowledge of the desert and its lore proved invaluable, yet his motives remained shrouded in mystery. In the deepest chamber of the ruins, beneath a sky seen through a rent in the stone, they found the spirit of Anansi. Not a creature of flesh, but of shadows and whispers, his presence enveloped them, offering truths wrapped in riddles. "The key you seek lies within the heart of betrayal," he intoned, his voice a tapestry of sorrow and rage. Farid's betrayal came as a shock, a knife in the dark. His ambition, it was revealed, was to harness the artifact for his own ends. In the ensuing struggle, old Mustafa, who had secretly followed to aid them, made the ultimate sacrifice, giving his life to thwart Farid's ambitions. With Farid's treachery averted, and Mustafa's sacrifice fresh in their hearts, the trio discovered a cryptic prophecy hinting at a means to counter the curse. But the solution was as daunting as the curse itself, a ritual requiring a pure heart to willingly face Anansi's shadow. As they prepared to leave the ruins, armed with newfound knowledge but burdened with loss, the weight of their impending task lay heavily upon them. The journey back to Djenné was not just a return to their besieged city, but a march towards a confrontation that could either lift the darkness or condemn them to its depths. The ruins faded into the desert's embrace, a silent testament to the cycle of power and retribution. The trio's journey to the ancients had illuminated the path forward, but the final steps were theirs alone to take, towards a destiny unwritten. As dawn's first light pierced the shadowy veil over Djenné, the city awoke not to the promise of a new day, but to the culmination of an ancient curse. The streets, once bustling with life, lay eerily silent, shrouded in an oppressive gloom that seemed to swallow hope itself. Lamine, Neneba, and the heartbroken yet resolute citizens of Djenné gathered at the city's center, near the Grand Mosque, their faces etched with determination. The loss of old Mustafa had ignited a fire within them, a resolve to reclaim their city from the darkness. Neneba, stepping forward, revealed the essence of their plan, born from the prophecy unearthed in the desert ruins. It was not a battle of force they were to engage in, but one of spirit. Anansi's curse, rooted in betrayal and pain, could only be undone through understanding and an act of pure, selfless sacrifice. As the ritual commenced, led by Imam Soleiman, the shadows began to stir, coalescing into a form both terrifying and pitiable, the manifestation of Anansi, the deity of shadows, betrayed and vengeful. The air crackled with unseen energy, the very fabric of reality bending around the deity's will. The confrontation was not one of violence, but of confrontation with the past. Neneba, acting as the conduit for the city's plea, addressed Anansi directly, her voice steady but filled with compassion. She spoke of forgiveness, of breaking the cycle of vengeance that had ensnared them all. But as the ritual reached its zenith, it became clear a greater sacrifice was required. In a heart-wrenching twist, Lamine stepped forward, offering himself as the key to sealing the rift between worlds. His connection to the artifact, and thus to Anansi, made him the linchpin of the curse and its resolution. With a final loving glance at Neneba and a city united in silent prayer, Lamine embraced his fate, stepping into the shadow's heart. A blinding light erupted, engulfing both him and Anansi, a scream of anguish and release tearing through the morning air. As the light faded, the citizens of Djenné found themselves at dawn's mercy once more, the shadows receding like a nightmare at daybreak. The curse was lifted, but at a cost that would forever haunt the city's memory. In the days that followed, Djenné mourned and celebrated in equal measure. The shadow over their city had been dispelled, but the mystery of the artifact and the depths of their own history remained, a tale of darkness and light, of sacrifice and redemption. Neneba, now the keeper of her brother's legacy, stood at the edge of the desert, the artifact in hand. She buried it beneath the sands, a silent vow that its secrets and Lamine's sacrifice would guard Djenné against future darkness. The final stand of Djenné was over, but the story of its people, their courage in the face of unspeakable darkness, would echo through the ages, a reminder of the power of unity and the enduring light of the human spirit.